Who are you? Why do you look like... I know what you're about to do. I know what you're thinking. I know the fire you're carrying, because I carried it too. But stop. Just stop for a moment. Let me speak. I lived longer than you ever did. I walked through the years you never touched. I made the mistakes you didn't get to make. And I found the quiet you never believed was real. Let me tell them what we never had time to understand. I am 55 years old. That sentence alone used to feel impossible to me. I remember being 22 and thinking 55 was a foreign country. Somewhere old men went when the music in them stopped. Somewhere that had nothing to do with me. But time does not ask your permission. It doesn't knock. It doesn't wait for you to be ready. And here I am, 55. My hands are slower, my voice sits lower in my chest. My eyes have seen enough that they don't rush to look at anything anymore. The strange thing about getting old, the thing nobody warns you about, is that you begin to understand your younger self, not with pride, but with a kind of aching sorrow. You see him clearly for the first time. The bravado, the hunger, the beauty of it, and the blindness at the center of all that fire. I want to talk to you today about that blindness, and about what it cost me, and about what it might be costing you right now, today, without you even knowing it. I grew up believing that intensity was the same thing as living, that the louder you burned, the more real you were. And I had reasons for that belief. Real reasons. I came from places where softness could get you hurt, where dreams had to be defended like property, because nobody around you was going to protect them for you, where the fastest way to survive was to become so bright, so undeniable, so relentlessly present that the world had no choice but to stop and look. And the world did look. I found my voice early. I found that words had weight, that they could move people. They could crack something open in a person that they didn't even know was closed. That felt like power. But more than power, it felt like purpose. I believed in what I was doing. I genuinely, completely believed. That's the thing people forget about ambition at that age. It isn't cynical. It isn't calculated. It's almost holy. You are 20 years old and you believe. The way children believe in things that can't be proven. At what you're doing matters. But what I didn't understand then, what I was completely blind to, was the cost that was accumulating in the background, quietly. While I was busy burning, I thought the fire was free. I thought you could just give yourself away endlessly and nothing would go missing. I thought being needed by so many people meant that you yourself were filled. I was wrong. I won't tell you the exact moment things began to shift. Not yet. I'll just say there are certain nights that stay with you, not the celebrated ones, not the nights with the crowds and the lights and the noise that felt like proof of something. The nights that stay with you are the quiet ones, the ones when you're sitting in a room that should feel like success, and something inside you goes very, very still. And in that stillness, you hear something you've been too loud to hear for years. A question you didn't ask, a person you didn't call back, a version of yourself you promised you'd come back for, and never did. I kept telling myself I'd slow down later. I kept telling myself that the intensity was temporary, that once I reached a certain point, once I proved what needed to be proven, once the world stopped doubting, once I felt truly safe, and I would rest, then I would be present. Later never came. Or rather, later looked nothing like I imagined. By the time I finally had enough silence to sit with myself, some of the people I'd meant to call were gone. Some of the doors I'd meant to walk back through had quietly, without ceremony, been closed. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, that's not me. That's not my story. I know where my priorities are. But let me ask you something honestly. How long have you been telling yourself that this pace is temporary? How long have you been promising the people around you, or just yourself, that things will be different after this one project, this one phase, this one season of pressure? I said it for years. And the strange mercy of getting old is that you finally see the pattern from enough distance to call it by its name. It was never going to be different later. The habits you practice now are the architecture of later. What you do today, quietly, without an audience, that is the structure of the life you will actually live. I don't say this to frighten you. I say it because someone should have said it to me. Someone did try, actually. more than once. I just wasn't ready to hear it. I was too busy being certain. There were people who loved me in ways I didn't know how to receive at the time. My mother, Lord, she carried so much for so long with so little acknowledgement. She had her own battles, her own storms, her own years of surviving the world handed her. And I wanted to save her. That want was real. But want and presence are different things. I understand now what that combination feels like from the inside. To be proud of someone and still feel their absence like a weight in the room. There were friendships I burned through. Not maliciously. That's the part that took me a long time to accept. I didn't hurt people out of cruelty. I hurt them out of distraction, out of the belief that intensity alone was enough to sustain a relationship. And there were versions of myself I was too afraid to let people see. The uncertainty, the exhaustion beneath the certainty. The nights when the voice that wrote about other people's pain was sitting very quietly with its own. I was surrounded by people almost constantly for years, and I was lonely in a way that had no language, because loneliness isn't supposed to happen to people like that. Nobody tells you that being needed and being known are two completely different things. I think about rivers sometimes. A river that moves fast enough, that runs hard enough over stone, will cut through anything. It will carve canyons. It will be magnificent to witness. People will travel from everywhere to stand at its edge and feel small in the best way. But a river that only knows how to move fast will never know what it is to be still water, will never know the sound of its own surface when nothing is disturbing it, will never give the fish a place to rest or the trees on its bank a chance to drink slowly. I was a river that only knew how to move fast. I was so afraid of stillness that I mistook motion for meaning. I thought if I stopped, I would disappear, that the quiet would swallow me, that the world would remember I existed only as long as I kept producing proof. And so I moved, constantly, urgently, brilliantly, some said, but I never learned to be still water. I never gave myself or the people I loved the chance to drink slowly. Here's what I cannot recover. I cannot go back to the conversations I was too busy to have. I cannot return to the room where someone waited for me and finally stop waiting. I cannot give back the years that passed while I was proving something to an audience that, in the end, moved on to the next thing, as audiences always do. I cannot make my mother younger. I cannot sit across from her now the way I should have then, without all the years between us, with nothing to prove and nowhere to be. I cannot undo the moments I chose impact over intimacy, and I cannot know. I will never fully know how many of those moments the people on the other side still carry. That is the part of getting old that no one prepares you for. Not the physical decay, though that is its own education. It's the weight of the irreversible. I am 55, and I am grateful for every year I have. And I am grieving quietly every day for the ones I spent wrong. Both things are true. They sit beside each other like old neighbors who have stopped arguing and learn to share a fence. I'm not going to tell you what to do. I learned enough to know that nobody changes from being told. People change from feeling something true and then having the courage to act on it before the feeling passes. So I'll just say what I know, and you can do with it whatever you need. The relationships you are treating like a background, the ones you keep meaning to invest in after this busy season, they are not waiting indefinitely. People are quiet and visible threshold, and when it's crossed, they don't usually announce it. They just slowly begin building their life around your absence. The version of yourself you keep promising to become, the calmer one, the more present one, the one who creates from love instead of from fear. That version does not appear automatically with success or age or arrival. You have to go practice it in the ordinary days, in the unimportant moments, in the mornings when nothing is at stake. And whatever it is you are carrying that you haven't told anyone, whatever weight you've been performing strength around, it does not make you more powerful to carry it alone. It just makes you lonelier. Let me ask you something before I go. Who in your life has been waiting for a version of you that you keep promising is coming? Not the version the world sees. The one that sits down, puts the phone away, and says, I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. Tell me what's been hard. Who is that person for you? And when did you last show up for them the way they need it? What are you producing right now in this season of your life that you secretly know is coming from fear rather than from love? What would you do differently if you weren't afraid of disappearing the moment you stopped? If a version of you from 30 years in the future were standing in this room right now, looking at the choices you're making today, what would they want you to know? What would they be aching to tell you quietly? Before you made the mistake they can no longer undo, sit with that. Don't answer quickly. Let it breathe. I am 55 years old. I have watched the sky change color over more mornings than I ever thought I deserved. I have learned to sit in silence without needing to fill it. I have learned that love is not a performance, and that the people who matter most are not judging the quality of your output. They are simply waiting with a patience that deserves to be honored for you to arrive. There is time still. For most of you, there is time. That is the gift that I want to hand you through this screen, through this voice, across whatever distance separates us. Not wisdom, not instruction, just time. The awareness that it exists and that it is not guaranteed, and that right now, in this breath, you still have it. Use it. Not efficiently, not strategically, not in a way that looks good from the outside. Use it the way water uses it, the way light uses it, quietly, completely, without saving the best of yourself for an audience. The people who love you, the real ones, they are not an audience. Give them the unperformed version, the unfinished one, the one that doesn't know all the answers yet. That is the one they were always waiting for. I know because I made them wait too long. Don't.